The laughter erupted like gunfire in the hallowed hush of Grace Evangelical Church. Sharp and merciless, slicing through the stained glass glow that painted the pews in fractured hues of crimson and gold. 16-year-old Alexander Hayes froze mid-aisle. His scuffed sneakers, relics from a thrift store bin, cracked leather peeling like old bark, squeaking against the polished oak floor as every head swiveled toward him. Lord have mercy. Is that the trash kid from the trailer park? A woman's voice hissed from the third row, her pearl necklace clinking like judgment bells. And the snickers spread, a viral whisper that turned the sanctuary into a coliseum of cruelty. From the pulpit, Reverend Patrick Callahan's Bible slipped from his sweat-slicked fingers, thumping onto the worn velvet cushion with a thud that echoed like a gavel. His green eyes, usually soft as spring moss, blazed with a fury that silenced the room in an instant, not with thunderous sermon, but with a single, shattered word. Enough! He vaulted down the 3 steps, his black robe billowing like a raven's wing, and planted himself between Alexander and the sea of stunned faces, his broad shoulders a barricade forged in quiet fire. In that heartbeat, the boy who'd come seeking solace felt the world tilt, as if the cross above them had cracked open to reveal not wrath, but a hidden grace. Patrick's hand found Alexander's elbow, gentle, electric, a touch that lingered a fraction too long, and guided him toward the side door, away from the eyes that now darted like startled minnows. Whispers chased them into the vestibule. What's the preacher doing? Consorting with that? But Patrick didn't turn back. He never would again. Not after that moment, when the laughter had peeled back his own armored faith to expose the raw, beating heart beneath. The rain outside hammered the gravel lot like accusations, turning the red Georgia clay to slick mud that sucked at Alexander's sneakers as they stumbled toward the old Ford pickup parked crookedly under the dripping oaks. "Get in, kid," Patrick muttered, his voice rough as cornbread crust, yanking open the passenger door with a creak that matched the storm's growl. Alexander hesitated, water streaming down his freckled cheeks. Rain or tears, he couldn't tell, his backpack slung low like a shield, stuffed with the few crumpled bills he'd earned bagging groceries at the Piggly Wiggly. Inside the cab, the air was thick with the scent of wet wool and pine sol, Patrick's cologne clinging faintly to the cracked vinyl seats. The engine roared to life, wipers slapping rhythmically against the deluge. But neither spoke until the church's steeple faded in the rearview, a silhouette against lightning-veined skies. "Why'd you do that?" Alexander finally blurted, his voice cracking like the thunder outside. He was all limbs and angles, a cultish frame poured into hand-me-down jeans that hung loose on his narrow hips, his dark curls plastered to a forehead still boyish soft. Patrick gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles whitening against the black leather. 38. He was the steady rock of Willow Creek, Georgia, widower to a car crash 5 years back, father to none, shepherd to 500 souls who tithed faithfully and prayed away their sins. But today, that rock had fissured. "Because it was wrong," he said simply, eyes fixed on the blurred ribbon of Highway 19. "And because, hell, Alex, I've seen you slipping in the back row for months. You think I don't notice?" Alexander's laugh was bitter, a puff of fog on the windshield. "Notice the charity case, you mean? The fag's son from the holler." The word hung heavy, self-lacerating, a scar from too many playground taunts and his daddy's belt after one too many Pabst Blues. Daddy Hayes had lit out for Atlanta 2 summers ago, chasing a waitress's skirt and leaving Alex to fend for himself in the double-wide with Aunt Rita, who chain-smoked menthols and forgot rent more often than not. Patrick's jaw clenched, the muscle ticking like a metronome. Don't you dare call yourself that. Not here. Not with me. He pulled off onto a dirt shoulder, the truck jolting to a halt amid pines that whispered secrets to the wind. Turning, he fixed Alexander with a gaze that stripped away the storm's chaos, green depths holding storms of their own. You're welcome at Grace. Every Sunday, every damn day. Shoes or no shoes, the boy swallowed hard, throat bobbing, and for the first time, he really looked at the man who'd upended his world in 60 seconds flat. Patrick's face was weathered oak, strong jaw shadowed with Sunday stubble, laugh lines etched deep from sermons laced with wry southern wit. But now those lines twisted with something fiercer, something that made Alexander's chest ache like a bruise. Thanks, Reverend, he mumbled, ducking his head, but Patrick's hand, calloused from hammering hymnals and hauling hay for the church picnic, lifted his chin with a tenderness that stole the air from the cab. Call me Patrick. And Alex, you're not alone in this. The words were a vow, unspoken but ironclad, as thunder rolled distant applause. They sat like that, rain drumming a staccato heartbeat, until the storm eased to a patter, and Patrick eased the truck back onto the road, toward the trailer park on the outskirts where sodium lamps flickered like hesitant fireflies. Word spread through Willow Creek faster than kudzu in July. By Monday noon, the diner at the crossroads buzzed with it. Preacher Pat, defending that half-raised whelp in the devil's rags. Miss Evelyn at the beauty parlor clucked her tongue over foils. Mark my words. It'll be the ruination of that fine man. Old man Hargrove, nursing coffee black as his mood at the counter, spat tobacco juice into a styrofoam cup. Ain't right. A man of God mix in with trash. Next he'll be preachin' tolerance for the unnatural. But Patrick didn't preach that Sunday. He thundered. From the pulpit, his voice, a baritone honed on back porch guitars and revival tents, crackled like live wire. The measure you use is the measure you get, he quoted from Matthew, eyes sweeping the congregation like a lighthouse beam, lingering on the smirker in the bass section, the whisperer in the alto pew. We ain't here to polish our halos or point fingers at the least of these. We're here because one boy in old shoes showed up anyway, braver than all of us combined. Alexander sat in the back, heart pounding against his ribs like a caged bird, Patrick's words wrapping around him warmer than the quilt Aunt Rita pawned last winter. After the benediction, as folks milled like milling cattle, Patrick found him by the coat rack, slipping a folded 20 into his jacket pocket. For new kicks, he murmured, close enough that Alexander caught the faint spice of his aftershave. But don't go flashin' it. Folks talk. They talked plenty. Over the next weeks, the talks turned to Tuesdays after youth group, when Patrick lingered in the empty fellowship hall, stacking chairs while Alexander wiped down tables, their conversations meandering from job sufferings to Johnny Cash laments, from the ache of empty pews to the sting of small-town stares. Patrick shared stories of his late wife, Ellie, how her laughter had lit the parsonage like fireflies, how the wreck on I-85 had hollowed him out, leaving a man who prayed for purpose but woke to silence. Alexander, in turn, unspooled his own frayed threads. Daddy's rages after the mill laid him off, the night he'd found his first kiss stolen behind the bleachers by Tommy Reeves. Rough, fumbling, over too quick with a shove and a slur that still echoed. I ain't. You know, he'd confessed one evening, voice small as he scrubbed at a coffee ring on the Formica. But I feel it. Different. Patrick had paused, rag in hand, the fluorescent hum overhead the only sound. Then, softly, "Son, God's got a bigger tent than we think. And different, hell, that's the spark that lights the world." No judgment, no sermon, just truth, plain as cornbread. And in that moment, Alexander felt seen, not as the boy in old shoes, but as Alexander Hayes, whole and wanting. Fall crept in on crisp winds scented with leaf smoke and revival anticipation. The church marquee promising harvest homecoming. Souls saved. Hearts mended. Patrick threw himself into it. But his sermons carried a new undercurrent. Threads of mercy woven with fire, quotes from Isaiah on justice for the oppressed. Parables of prodigals welcomed without shoes or shame. The elders noticed. Deacon Hargrove cornered him after Bible study, Bible thumping against his palm like a badge. "Pat, you're treadin' dangerous ground. Folks say you're soft on that boy's ways." Patrick's smile was steel. "Soft on mercy, you mean? Last I checked, that's the gospel, Walt." But doubt gnawed at him in the parsonage nights. Alone with Ellie's faded photo on the mantel, the bed too vast and the silence too loud. And then there was Alexander, those stolen Tuesdays bleeding into Saturdays, helping rake leaves or fix the leaky roof on the community center, their laughter echoing freer than hymns. One such Saturday, as October's gold bled into dusk, they sat on the tailgate of Patrick's truck, backs against the cab, passing a thermos of spiked cider. Patrick swore was just for the chill. Alexander's new sneakers, practical Nikes from Walmart, laces double-knotted, dangled beside Patrick's polished boots, the contrast a quiet victory. "You ever think about leavin'?" Alexander asked, voice laced with cider warmth, stars pricking the velvet sky above. Patrick took a slow pull, the burn steadying him. "Used to. After Ellie. Thought I'd run to Nashville, chase that old guitar dream." He chuckled low, self-deprecating. "But this town's in my blood. The good, the ugly, all of it." His gaze slid sideways, catching Alexander's profile in the half-light, sharp cheekbones, lips parted on a question unspoken. The air thickened, charged like pre-storm ozone, and when Alexander turned, their eyes locked, green on hazel, question to answer. It was Alexander who bridged it, tentative as a prayer, his hand finding Patrick's knee, fingers trembling against denim. Patrick didn't pull away. Instead, he covered that hand with his own, thumb tracing a slow circle that sent sparks skittering up Alexander's spine. "Alex," he breathed, voice gravel and grace, and leaned in, their breaths mingling hot and hesitant until lips met, soft, searching, a revelation wrapped in flannel and fear. The kiss deepened under the indifferent stars, Patrick's hand cupping Alexander's nape, pulling him closer as if to anchor them both against the tide. It was everything forbidden and right, the salt of unshed tears, the sweetness of cider, the ache of years unspoken. When they broke apart, foreheads pressed, Patrick's whisper was ragged. "This, we can't. But God help me, I don't want to stop." They didn't stop. Not that night, stealing touches in the truck's shadowed cab, nor the next week, when Patrick invited Alexander to the parsonage for scripture study, the Bible forgotten on the kitchen table as they tumbled onto the couch, exploring with whispers and wonder. It was clumsy at first, Alexander's inexperience a flush of cheeks, Patrick's restraint a fraying thread, but it bloomed into something fierce, tender, a secret garden walled by silence and sin. Willow Creek hummed oblivious, harvest moon rising fat and forgiving, but cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. Tommy Reeves, now a hulking senior with a pickup jacked on mud tires, had seen them once, parked too long on Lover's Lane, silhouettes blurred by steam. Jealousy festered, whispers turned to warnings. Preacher's gone queer for the trash boy. He'd slur at the bonfire parties, passing a flask to nods and narrowed eyes. Deacon Hargrove heard it first, from his nephew at the feed store. Confrontation came on a Tuesday eve, rain lashing the parsonage windows like furies. "Pat, this stops now," he growled, Bible brandished like a sword. "The boys leading you astray. Resign, or we'll call the board." Patrick stood tall in the lamplight, jaw set. "Walt, you threaten me with what? Love? That's the only sin here. Your fear of it." But the board convened anyway, elders circling like wolves, and Patrick tendered his resignation the next dawn, ink still wet when Alexander arrived for their ritual coffee. "I quit," Patrick said flatly, handing over a mug that steamed like his resolve. Alexander's face crumpled, mug shattering on the linoleum in a spray of ceramic and Joe. "For me, Pat?" "No, you can't." "I did." Patrick pulled him close, arms a fortress. "For us. We'll go. Atlanta's got rainbow flags and real jobs. You finish school. I don't know. Council or something." Hope flickered, fragile as moth wings, and they clung to it through the night. Bodies entwined in the guest room bed, promises murmured against skin. But betrayal brewed darker. Tommy, egged by Hargrove's subtle nods, leaked photos, grainy cell snaps from that rainy shoulder, twisted to damning. They hit the church Facebook group by Friday, captioned "Sodom in the Sanctuary." The storm broke at homecoming service. Pews packed with out-of-towners. Alexander in the back row for support. Heart swelling at Patrick's final sermon. "Love your neighbor as yourself, even when it scares you shitless." Midway through, Tommy burst in, phone aloft, voice booming, "Liar, hypocrite, he's been F." Chaos erupted. Shouts, gasps, a woman fainting into her hymnal. Patrick vaulted the pulpit again. But this time, Alexander stood too, fists clenched. "Shut your damn mouth, Tommy." The congregation surged, a tide of outrage, Hargrove bellowing for order as flashes popped like gunfire. In the melee, Patrick grabbed Alexander's hand, bolting for the side exit, but the doors were blocked, intentional, faces twisted in righteous fury. Pinned against the altar rail, Patrick faced them. Alexander pressed to his side. "This is your pastor?" Tommy jeered, waving the phone. "Banging the town queer?" The laughter started then, nervous at first, then cruel, echoing the day Alexander's shoes had betrayed him. But Patrick didn't flinch. He raised his voice, steady as bedrock. "Yes, this is my love. And if that's sin, then damn me to hell, because I'd walk through fire for him." Silence fell, heavy as judgment, eyes widening not in scorn, but shock raw, unraveling truth. Hargrove stepped forward, face ashen. "Pat, you mean it?" A murmur rippled, some nods, hesitant, others tears. Miss Evelyn, of all people, clutched her purse, whispering, "Lord, forgive us." The dam broke, not with stones, but sobs, confessions spilling like floodwater. "I laughed that day," Thought it made me better. My boys like him. Hid it from me. In that stunned hush, Patrick pulled Alexander close, kissing his temple publicly, defiantly. "We're leaving," he announced, voice cracking but clear. "But remember this, God's not in the pointing fingers. He's in the broken places." They walked out hand in hand, rain welcoming them like baptism, the crowd parting not in exile, but awe. Willow Creek wouldn't forget, neither would they. Atlanta waited, a city of second chances, but the real grace was forged there. In the laughter turned to lament, the pastors stand a beacon for the boy who dared to show up. The Greyhound to Atlanta lurched out of the Macon terminal at dawn, exhaust fumes mingling with the bitter chicory of goodbye coffee from a styrofoam cup. Alexander slumped against the window, his new duffel, stuffed with 2 changes of clothes, a dog-eared copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and Patrick's old acoustic guitar, wedged between his sneakers. The landscape blurred. Pine thickets giving way to billboards hawking megachurches and monster truck rallies, each mile a severing from the red dirt that had cradled and clawed him. Patrick sat beside him, their thighs brushing in the narrow seat, a silent anchor amid the rumble of strangers' snores and the whine of brakes. His own bag was lighter, Bible, a few shirts, Ellie's silver locket on a chain. But his heart felt leaden. The parsonage keys turned over to Hargrove in a dawn handoff that tasted of ash. "You regret it?" Alexander whispered, voice barely audible over the road noise, hazel eyes searching Patrick's profile for fracture lines. "Regret you? Never." Patrick laced their fingers, thumb stroking the boy's knuckles in rhythmic reassurance. "The rest will figure." But doubt shadowed his words. At 38, starting over wasn't a prodigal's romp but a gambler's bluff. Stakes his faith, his future, this fragile thing blooming between them. Atlanta swallowed them whole, a concrete jungle pulsing with neon veins and exhaust haze. They crashed in a midtown flophouse first, peeling wallpaper, a hot plate that sparked like bad omens, while Patrick pounded pavement for gigs at coffee shops, his baritone crooning Dylan covers to hipster crowds who tipped in loose change and knowing nods. Alexander enrolled at the community college, GD in hand, majoring in graphic design on a patchwork of Pell Grants and part-time barista shifts at a cafe called the Bean Counter, where rainbow stickers peeled from the register and drag queens held court over lattes. Nights were theirs, stolen sanctuaries in the sagging double bed, where Patrick's hands mapped Alexander's body like scripture. Reverent, unhurried, drawing gasps that echoed off thin walls. "You're my miracle," Patrick murmured once, after, their skin slick and tangled in thrift store sheets, Alexander's head pillowed on his chest, heartbeat a steady psalm. But miracles cost. Rent hiked, Patrick's gigs dried up in winter's chill, and Alexander's shifts stretched to bone ache, the steam from espresso machines blurring the edges of exhaustion. Spring thawed the freeze, but not the fissures. Patrick landed a counseling gig at a nonprofit LGBTQ youth outreach, ironic grace from a god who'd once seemed straitjacket. "It's perfect," he told Alexander over takeout lo mein in their cramped studio, now brightened with posters of Stonewall and succulents Alexander coaxed from dollar store pots. "Helping kids like you were." But the work unearthed ghosts. Sessions with runaways echoing his own hollowed youth. The bottle he'd buried after Ellie's funeral. Temptations that whispered in empty hours. Alexander thrived. Sketches blooming into freelance logos for queer-owned bakeries, his confidence unfurling like kudzu unchecked. Yet envy crept, subtle as fog, a pang when Patrick came home late, smelling of menthol from a client's cigarette, or when Alexander caught him staring at old photos, Ellie's smile a specter in the frame. "You miss it, don't you?" he accused one humid June night, after a fight over forgotten laundry escalated to slam doors. "The pulpit. The power. Me, I'm just the complication." Patrick's face crumpled, green eyes storm-dark. "Complication? Alex, you're my salvation." He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling the boy into a crush of arms and apologies, their kiss fierce with forgiveness. But words lingered, poison ivy in the garden. Betrayal slithered in via email, innocuous at first, a chain from Hargrove, forwarded through a deacon's wife who'd prayed on it. Willow Creek's new pastor, a firebrand from Alabama, all brimstone and bow ties, had preached a series on reclaiming the flock, complete with veiled barbs at fallen shepherds and their strays. Attached, a grainy photo, not Tommy's but worse, snapped at homecoming, Patrick kissing Alexander's temple, circled in red Sharpie, captioned "Abomination Alert." It arrived while Patrick was at a session, Alexander alone with his laptop, the screen's glow harsh against his pallor. Rage boiled first, fingers flying to reply, a torrent of "go to hell" unsent, then grief, a sob wrenching free as he scrolled comments. Pray for their souls. Willow Creek stands pure. His hands shook, dialing Patrick, voicemail beeping cold. By the time Patrick returned, Alexander was curled on the fire escape, city lights mocking their smallness. "They're comin' for us," he choked out, photo thrust like evidence. Patrick's jaw tightened, scrolling with a surgeon's calm. "Old news. Let 'em bark." But his voice wavered. That night, he paced the studio, phone glued to ear, calling contacts from seminary days, progressive voices in the wilderness, offers of guest preaching in Birmingham, a podcast slot on Faith Unbound. Summer swelled, Atlanta's heat a pressure cooker. Alexander's freelance picked up, a gig designing for Pride Fest. His posters splashed across billboards, fists raised in glittered defiance. Pride weekend found them in the throng, Patrick's hand firm in Alexander's, rainbow flags snapping like victory banners. They danced to RuPaul anthems in Piedmont Park, sweat slick and laughing, Patrick's lips on Alexander's neck amid cheers that drowned old shames. "This is us," Patrick yelled over bass thumps, and for a night, it was electric, eternal. But autumn brought the axe. Patrick's nonprofit folded, funding cut by state suits on moral grounds, whispers of his personal history, the unspoken blade. Job hunts soured, interviews polite but probing, family status? A code for closets. Desperation led to Willow Creek, a Hail Mary email to Hargrove. "Need a reference? Reply, son. Come home. Redeem." Attached, a plane ticket, one way. Patrick stared at it for days, screen burning retinas, Alexander pretending not to notice the late-night Google searches for pastors in exile. The fight exploded over burnt spaghetti, Alexander's fork clattering. "You're thinking it, ain't you? Going back. Leaving me to." "What? No!" Patrick's denial cracked like thunder. "I chose you. Every damn day." But tears betrayed him, hot tracks down weathered cheeks. "What if I can't provide? What if I'm dragging you down?" Alexander's heart fractured. "Then we fight together. Not you crawling back to them." He stormed out, wandering Midtown's bars till 2 a.m., nursing a watered whiskey, flirtations from strangers a hollow echo. Dawn found him on a bench. Patrick's call vibrating. Come home. Please. Reconciliation was raw. Apologies gasped between thrusts against the apartment door. Urgency born of fear. But the seed was sown. Patrick's resolve frayed. Threads pulling toward the prodigal pull of home. November chilled the air. Leaves carpeting sidewalks in rust. Alexander's big break landed. A design firm downtown. Entry-level but salaried. Celebrations toasting with cheap champagne. We made it, he grinned. Clinking glasses. Patrick's smile tight as piano wire. That night, over cooling pasta, Patrick confessed. Hargrove called. Not to redeem, to apologize. The new guy's Tankin. Flock's splint Aaron. They want me back. Interim. No strings. Alexander's fork froze mid-air. World tilting. And you said. Silence stretched. Damning. I said I'd think. The room spun. Think? After everything. Alexander bolted. Duffel half-packed in a frenzy. Door slamming like finality. He crashed at a coworker's couch. Nights blurring in text wars. You're betraying us. I'm scared. Alex. For you. Patrick's pleas chipped at armor. But pride held fast. Week 3. Rock bottom. Alexander's firm hit layoffs. His desk cleared by noon. Resume a joke in inboxes. Broke and broken. He texted, bus station. Midnight. Patrick was there. Truck idling under sodium glow. Face haggard. No words, just arms. Crushing. The drive home a vigil of what-ifs. They rebuilt slow. Patrick turning down Willow Creek Flat. Tell him Grace ain't for sale. Gigs at queer open mics. Alexander's sketches sold on Etsy. Portraits of lovers in defiance. Christmas came quiet. A tree scavenged from alley. Ornaments of foil stars and shared dreams. But betrayal's echo lingered. A low hum. One January morn. Snow dusting palms like improbable grace. Patrick found Alexander at the window, staring at a letter acceptance to Savannah College of Art. Full ride. Go, Patrick urged, voice thick. Chase it. Follow. Tears welled. Together. Always. The kiss sealed it. Soft as snowfall. A vow renewed. Savannah's salt marshes breathed life into Alexander's lungs. The city's spires and squares a watercolor dream against the slate-gray Atlantic. Spring semester dawned humid. Lecture halls buzzing with eccentric profs and peers who wore their queerness like badges. Tattoos of trans flags. Pins proclaiming love is love. Alexander's portfolio bloomed under mentorship. Charcoal sketches evolving to digital renders that captured the ache of hidden hearts. His thesis circling themes of Southern exile and reclaimed divinity. Patrick followed 2 weeks later, renting a shotgun house in the Victorian district, peeling gingerbread trim, a porch swing creaking lullabies to live oaks draped in resurrection fern. No pulpit for him yet. Instead, a part-time role at a Unitarian fellowship. Sermons traded for circles of sharing, where atheists and agnostics mingled with the devout. It's messy, he admitted over gumbo at the old pink house, candlelight flickering on his laugh lines. But real. Like us, their life wove domestic rhythms. Mornings tangled in 300 thread sheets from Target. Patrick's coffee brewing strong while Alexander sketched at the kitchen table. Sunlight slanting through lace curtains. Evenings wandered Forsyth Park. Hands swinging loose. Feeding crumbs to waddling ducks as Spanish moss whispered approvals. Sex was sacrament now. Lazy Sundays with jazz on the Victrola, Patrick's mouth tracing verses on Alexander's thighs, eliciting moans that fogged the bay windows. "My artist," Patrick teased, nipping at a hip bone, drawing a gasp that dissolved into giggles. Yet undercurrents stirred. Willow Creek's ghosts refused burial. Hargrove's emails persisted. Olive branches laced with thorns. Flock misses your fire, Pat. Boys welcome to counseling available. Alexander deleted them unread, but Patrick lingered, a masochistic pull. "They're tryin'," he'd say, voice wistful, and Alexander's stomach knotted, old insecurities clawing up. Summer internship whisked Alexander to a Charleston gallery. Bridge commutes over calico marshes, his designs gracing exhibit walls. Pride in the Lowcountry was feverish. Parades snaking through historic lanes, drag brunches spilling mimosas and shade. Patrick joined for the weekend, their hotel room a whirlwind of silk sheets and salt-kissed skin. But tension simmered. A phone buzzed during afterglow, Patrick's quick silence when Alexander stirred. "Who?" he murmured, feigning sleep's blur. "Just bored stuff." Lie tasted like bile. Patrick rolled away, back a wall. Fall deepened colors. Alexander's senior year a vortex of critiques and caffeine. Patrick's fellowship grew. Word spreading to progressive networks. A guest spot at an Emory conference on queer theology. Panelists nodding to his Willow Creek witness. Accolades flowed. But so did shadows. A blog post from a conservative watchdog. Ex-pastor plays house. The Callahan Fall. Dredging homecoming photos. Tommy's byline ghosting the comments. It hit Alexander mid-critique. Phone vibrating under his sketchpad. The room spun. Prof's voice droning on composition. Peers oblivious as he fled to the courtyard. Rain pattering magnolia leaves. Rage first. How dare they? Then hurt. A vice on his chest. Patrick's face in the grainy shot. Protective, but now exposed again. He biked home furious, bursting through the door to find Patrick on the porch. Rocking slow. A tumbler of bourbon glinting amber. "You see it," Alexander hurled. Screen thrust forward. Patrick sighed, deep as regret. "Yeah. Tommy's work. Verified it this mornin'. This mornin'? And you didn't tell me?" Betrayal stung fresh. Sharper than before. "What else you hidin'? More bored stuff?" The swing stilled. "Alex. It's noise. I blocked months ago." Liar. The word escaped. Venomous. And Patrick flinched as if struck. "You're still tied to that place. To them. I see it in your eyes. Every email. Every what if. I'm the detour. Ain't I? The phase till you get your robe back." Patrick surged up, glass clattering to the planks. "Phase? Jesus. Boy. You're my everything." Hands gripped Alexander's shoulders. Green eyes wild. "I turned down a full-time gig in Birmingham last week. 6 figures. My name on the marquee because it meant leaving you here. But yeah, I checked the emails. Because part of me wonders if we could go back. Show 'em wrong. Together. Together." Alexander laughed. Hollow. "Like your sermons? Mercy for the masses. But us in the shadows." He wrenched free, storming inside, slamming the bedroom door. Curled on the quilt. Sobs racked him. Fear of loss. Of being the sin that unmade the man he loved. Patrick knocked soft. Then harder. "Let me in, Alex. Please." Silence his answer. He slid down the wall outside. voice muffled through oak. I was 17 when I first felt it, kissing Caleb behind the barn at youth camp. Scared me straight to seminary, praying it away. Ellie. She was safe. Good. But you woke the dead in me. Pause. Throat clearing. If you want me gone, say it. But don't think for a heartbeat I don't choose you every dawn. Dawn crept, gray light fingering the blinds. Alexander cracked the door, finding Patrick asleep against it, curls tousled, face slack with vulnerability. Heart twisting, he knelt, tracing the silver in Patrick's stubble, a map of years yielded. Stay, he whispered, and Patrick stirred, pulling him down into a heap of limbs and relief, kisses salt with morning tears. Mending took weeks, couples counseling at the fellowship, Patrick's hand squeezing Alexander's during role plays of resentment. They burned the emails, a backyard pyre with marshmallows toasted ironic, flames devouring digital demons. Alexander's exhibit opening anchored them, his series, Sanctuary Stains, abstracts of fractured glass and shadowed embraces, selling 3 pieces to teary collectors. Patrick's toast at the after-party. To the boy who showed up in old shoes and stole my soul. Winter wrapped Savannah in rare frost. Holidays hushed by the house's hearth. New Year's found them on the roof. Bottle rocket bursts painting the stars. Resolutions whispered, more truth. Less fear. Patrick's big break landed. A book deal from the conference buzz. Grace in the margins. A pastor's reckoning. Manuscript pages scattered like leaves. Alexander's edits in red pen. Loving jabs. But fate's knife twisted springward. A call from Willow Creek, Hargrove. Voice quavering. Pat. It's Tommy. Rec on 19. Bad. He asked for you. The line crackled, Patrick's face draining to parchment. We'll come, he said, hanging up, eyes on Alexander, question, plea. The drive north was purgatory, palmettos yielding to pines, radio static preaching static sermons. Alexander's hand rested on Patrick's thigh, silent solidarity, but his mind raced, old wounds reopening. What if it pulls him back? Hospital smells assaulted, antiseptic sharp as regret. Tommy in a halo of tubes, face bandaged, monitors beeping dirge. He woke groggy, eyes finding Patrick. Reverend. Sorry. For everything. Voice a rasp. Hand groping. Patrick took it. Steady. No sorries, son. Just heal. Alexander hovered in the hall, eavesdropping fragments. Tommy's confessions. Jealousy from that bleacher kiss. Daddy's abuse funneled to cruelty. The photo a cry for notice. Tell the kid. Alex. I'm glad he got out. Patrick's response low. Forgiving. He did. We both did. Vigil stretch days. Alexander sketching Tommy's charted vitals, abstracts of fragility, while Patrick preached bedside psalms. Hargrove visited, awkward in the cafeteria, offering. Towns changed some. After you left, we questioned. A nod to the new deacon, a young woman with a rainbow lapel pin. Your stand. It stuck. Return south was cathartic. Tommy stabilizing. Patrick's book tour looming. First stop. Atlanta. We're okay, he affirmed over crab cakes at Huey's. Alexander's foot hooked round his ankle under the table. Stronger. Climax crested Memorial Day. Willow Creek's invite. Not interim, but a ecumenical service. Interfaith. inclusive. Patrick's keynote on Bridges over Briar. Come with me, he urged. Eyes alight. Alexander hesitated, old shoes metaphor haunting, but nodded. As your partner. The church, same steeple. Pews polished, swelled with faces old and new. Miss Evelyn in the front row, Hargrove beaming sheepish. Alexander walked in beside Patrick, hand in hand, sneakers now custom chucks with sketched crosses, squeaking bold. No laughter. Instead, applause, ragged and real. As Patrick ascended, Alexander in the wingback chair, heart thundering. His sermon wove their story without names, but veins of truth. The boy laughed at, the pastor stunned into love, the betrayal's forge. Grace isn't given. It's grabbed, white-knuckled. In the storm, voices amend, tears flowed, and when he pulled Alexander on stage mid-close, "This is my beloved," the embrace drew whoops, Hargrove's handkerchief dabbing openly. After, potluck spread under tents. Fried chicken, slaw, hugs tentative then tight. Tommy, crutches clicking, clasped Alexander's shoulder. Meant it. Glad. Redemption's taste was sweet, like pecan pie. Back in Savannah, unpacking the tour swag, books inscribed to my anchor, Alexander traced Patrick's jaw. Proud of you, lovemaking followed, slow and sacred, bodies a litany of thanks. Years blurred. Alexander's MFA, gallery shows in NYC, Patrick's book a bestseller, speaking circuit bridging divides. Willow Creek became pilgrimage site, their story mythologized in murals. A quiet wedding in Forsyth, vows under oaks. In all weathers, the boy in old shoes, he walked now in bespoke boots, but never forgot the laughter or the man who'd stunned it silent. Decade's turn brought silver to Patrick's temples, a distinguished frost that Alexander teased in morning mirrors, fingers combing through while coffee perked. Their shotgun house had gentrified around them. Neighbors, queer couples with rescue pups, block parties pulsing with Bad Bunny and barbecue. Alexander's studio overflowed canvases, commissions for GLAAD campaigns, a mural at the high school depicting intertwined hands shattering chains, his signature a stylized sneaker print. Patrick's circuit hummed Transatlantic Now, TEDx Oslo 1 month, a Vatican Fringe panel the next, his second book, Out of the Pew, Queer Faith Forward, dog-eared in divinity schools. But home anchored, Sunday suppers with Hargrove's successor, a potluck circuit blending collards and curry, Willow Creek a distant but dear relation, annual visits like family reunions where Tommy, now a counselor himself, sober 3 years, traded war stories over sweet tea. Yet prosperity's underbelly gnawed. Alexander's rising star pulled him to LA. Offers, studio animator gigs, residuals from a Netflix doc on queer Southern icons featuring their tale. It's time, he argued over paella at the Pirate's house, Patrick's fork pausing mid-speared shrimp. Bigger canvas. For us, Patrick's smile strained, green eyes clouding. And Savannah? The house? The swing? Me? 48. The road's romance faded. Jet lag lingered like regret. Audiences blurring to echoes of old pulpits. Bring you, Alexander countered. But doubt seeded Patrick's no to a guest professorship at Emory. Citing roots. Whispers resurfaced. Emails from conservative fringes. Prodigal returned? Trolls dredging homecoming. Twisting triumphs to scandals. Patrick deleted, but Alexander saw the toll. Bourbon nips before bed. sermons laced with defensive fire. Crisis crested autumnal. Alexander's L.A. Pitch Landing, a series Bible on sanctuary runaways. His story the spine. Celebration dinner at Vic's. Oysters raw as truth. Champagne fizzing. To Hollywood, Patrick toasted, but his grip on the flute whitened. Homeward, buzzed and buoyant, Alexander pitched, "Come with. We start fresh palm trees, not pines." Silence stretched. Traffic humming accusation. "Pat, I can't." Voice small. Patrick's confession spilled. A diagnosis from last week's checkup. Prostate shadows. Early but insistent. Treatments tying him to Savannah specialists. Didn't want to jinx the win. But leaving now feels like leaving life. Alexander's world guttered. Joy ashed. Why hide it? We face shit together. Hurt flared. Betrayal's echo. The closet's ghost. Scared you'd bolt, Patrick admitted, pulling over in a live oak alley. Rain resuming its patter. LA's your dream. I'm holding you back. Bullshit. Alexander's tears mixed with rain on the dash. You're my dream. You idiot. Embrace followed. Fierce in the cab. Promises renewed, treatments first. LA. Later, together. But cancer's claw dug deeper. Chemo cycles blurred holidays. Thanksgiving turkey congealing untouched. Christmas lights unstrung. Alexander deferred the gig. Freelancing remote. His sketches now therapeutic. Portraits of Patrick mid-fight. Gaunt but grinning. Captioned warrior psalm. Patrick's humor held. Wigs donned for laughs. Bald and beautiful. Baby. But nights brought tremors. Confessions in the dark. What if I don't beat it? What about you? Then I love you harder, Alexander vowed. Tracing chemo ports like constellations. Willow Creek rallied. Care packages of peach cobbler and prayers. Tommy driving down with Hargrove. A bedside jam session on guitars. Hymns twisted queer. Amazing grace. How sweet the chase. Spring bloomed defiant. Scans showing shrinkage, remissions whisper. Patrick's book tour relaunched modest. Southern stops. Intimate venues where he shared the scare. Vulnerability, the new sermon. Cancer taught what Willow didn't. Love's the only eternal. Audiences wept. Books sold out. Alexander stage-side. Hand in his sneakers tapping pride. Yet the scare unearthed fractures. Post-remission. Patrick's caution ossified. Turning down a joint keynote in D.C. Citing crowds wear me out. Alexander's L.A. Window narrowed. Execs cooling. Life happens, kid. But timelines don't. Resentment simmered. Pots boiling over minor. Forgotten infusions. Patrick's retreat to the den for calls that proved old seminary buddies. Voices thick with come back. Pat, we need your fire. Confrontation brewed midsummer. Alexander's birthday. A low-country boil catered. Friends toasting his comeback year. Patrick late. Another meeting. Arriving disheveled. Bourbon breath faint. Where? Alexander demanded. Guests dispersed. Porch swing a confessional. Old friend. From school. Evasion. Then truth. They're starting a progressive seminary in Macon. Dean's search. Sounded. Like purpose. Alexander's laugh cracked. Purpose? After chemo? After us? You're running back to robes. The old wound gaped. Tommy's photo. Hargrove's hooks. Now this siren of significance. Not runnin'. Building. Patrick's plea cracked. Alex, your soaring art, impact. I'm treading. This could be legacy. Legacy without me? Voice breaking. Alexander paced planks slick with sweat. I'm not your phase, Pat. Not the detour to respectability. Storm broke. Words like lightning. Selfish. Scared. Still ashamed? Patrick recoiled. Face ashen. Ashamed? Of you? Never. But doubt flickered, and Alexander fled to the guest room. Door locked. Sobs muffled in pillows scented with Patrick's aftershave. Dawn brought olive branch, coffee tray. Patrick's note. Talk? They did raw. Ragged. On the swing till noon. Revelations spilling. Patrick's fear. Obsolescence post-cancer. The pull to prove he wasn't the scandal pastor. Alexander's. Abandonment. The boy in old shoes forever chasing approval. Resolution forged in tears. Compromise. Patrick interviews for the deanship but defers start. 6 months Savannah. Nesting their future. Alexander pitches L.A. as sabbatical, not severance. We hybrid it. Me coast to coast. You south to spirit. Healing hummed tentative. Date nights reclaiming Savannah's ghosts. Riverwalk kisses. Ghost tours laced with inside jokes. Patrick's acceptance came conditional. Partner consult required henceforth. Alexander's series greenlit. Filming slotted post-remission glow. Climax crested Yom Kippur. Ironic. Interfaith service at the fellowship. Patrick's invocation on atonement blending Jewish reflection with Christian mercy. Alexander, assisting with tech. Froze mid-cue. Projector glitch looping a slide, homecoming photo. Faded but fierce. Gasps rippled. Patrick paused, then smiled, pulling Alexander on stage. This moment, our origin. Laughter to love. Let it remind. Atonement's not erasure, it's embrace. Applause thundered. Diverse faces alight. Black, brown, queer, straight. A microcosm mended. After, over klezmer-infused potluck, a donor approached, funding for Alexander's sanctuary dock to expand. Interactive exhibit, nationwide. Euphoria carried them to L.A. Pilot shoot. Alexander directing. Patrick cameo-ing as expert witness. Their hotel suite a command center of scripts and seduction. Ratings soared. Buzz building the Hayes Callahan story. From stigma to stardom. Back south. Willow Creek's homecoming evolved. Annual Grace Gala. Proceeds to youth shelters. Tommy emceeing with Rye charm. Patrick's deanship blended. Hybrid model. Savannah satellite. House untouched. A decade's end. Silver anniversary hike in the Smokies. Rings exchanged under rhododendron blaze. Simple bands. Engraved shoes and stands. Patrick's vow. You showed up, I stood. Forever. Alexander's. No more detours. The boy laughed at. A man now. Striding galleries. Sneakers evolved to loafers. But spirit untamed. The pastor stunned. A dean of hearts. Robes retired for hoodies. Love his eternal pulpit. Twilight's hush settled over Savannah like a benediction. Spanish moss veiling the live oaks in gossamer prayers as Alexander and Patrick navigated the cobblestone alleys of the historic district. Arms linked against the autumn chill. 20 years had etched their story into the city's lore. A mural on the community center wall depicted them stylized. The boy shielding his eyes from jeers. The pastor's hand extended like Michelangelo's creation. Colors vibrant against the stucco. Tourists snap selfies. Guides spinning yarns of the church scandal that sparked a revolution. while locals nodded knowingly over pralines at River Street stalls. Alexander, at 36, carried his successes lightly. A loft studio overlooking the squares, walls alive with commissions, Obama portraits for the White House Visitor Center, murals for Atlanta's Beltline celebrating trans resilience. His Netflix series had spawned a foundation, Shoebox Stories, collecting testimonies from queer youth in conservative pockets. Each box, a metaphorical pair of worn kicks symbolizing the walk to self. Emmys gathered dust on a reclaimed wood shelf, but the real trophy was the man beside him, Patrick's arm a familiar weight, steady as the tide. Patrick, pushing 60, had mellowed into elder statesman. Deanship at the Progressive Seminary a triumph of hybrid lectures and online cohorts, students flocking from Bible Belts to Big Apples for his blend of exegesis and empathy. His third book, Stunned into Silence, Sermons from the Sidelines, top charts in spiritual memoirs, forewords penned by allies from RuPaul to the Dalai Lama. Cancer's Shadow Lingered, a yearly pilgrimage to oncologists, scans like sacraments but remission held, a quiet miracle attributed less to divinity than to kale smoothies and Alexander's relentless optimism. Their evenings ritualized. Supper at the house, now expanded with a sunroom for Patrick's reading nook. Succulents thriving under grow lights Alexander rigged. Followed by porch swings, jazz vinyl spinning low from the bows. Tonight, though, marked divergence, Patrick's flight to a D.C. summit on faith and policy, Alexander's to L.A. for a foundation gala. 2 weeks, Patrick grumbled, nuzzling Alexander's neck over reheated gumbo. Feels like exile. Video calls and vice, Alexander quipped, nipping Patrick's earlobe, drawing a chuckle that rumbled chest deep. Lovemaking followed, unhurried as vintage wine. Patrick's hands, veined now but sure, mapping freckles like constellations. Alexander's gasps a litany of more. Always. After. Tangled in flannel sheets. Patrick's whisper. Marry me proper? Vegas kitsch. Or vows under the oaks. Alexander propped on elbow. Hazel eyes dancing. Oaks. With Tommy as best man, crutches and all. Laughter sealed it. Dreams drifting to sleep. Separation stretched taut. D.C. Ensnared Patrick. Panels bleeding into dinners with senators. A viral clip of his takedown of a homophobic congressman. Sir, your Bible's got more footnotes than love. Looping on CNN. Alexander's gala dazzled. Red carpet flashes. Speeches honoring the boy who walked in. Toasts with Clooney lookalikes. But hotel loneliness gnawed. Texts pinging sexts and sonnets. Patrick's miss your laugh a bomb. Yet the miles mocked. Crisis ignited midweek. Willow Creek emergency. A fire arson suspected. New pastors inclusive youth group targeted. Sanctuary gutted like judgment. Hargrove's call. Pat, they need you. Now. Patrick boarded the red-eye, landing amid ash and aftermath. Congregation huddled in the fellowship hall, faces soot-streaked and shell-shocked. He preached ad interim, no pulpit, just folding chairs in a tent erected hasty, words weaving lament to hope. Fire refines, doesn't destroy. From these embers, we rebuild bolder. Alexander, mid-gala after-party. Got the voicemail at 3 a.m. Pacific, crisis here. Stay safe. Love. Panic surged. Memories of homecoming chaos. Tommy's wreck, and he booked the first flight east. Landing in Atlanta by noon. Rental car devouring interstate to Willow. The site smoldered. Steeple intact but nave charred. Stained glass melted to abstract grief. Patrick amid the throng. Sleeves rolled. Directing volunteers, Hargrove hauling debris. Tommy coordinating donors. Miss Evelyn passing water bottles with trembling hands. Alexander parked curbside. Heart hammering. Sneakers crunching gravel as he approached. Patrick spotted him. Face breaking dawn bright. Alex? What? Embrace swallowed words. Public and unapologetic. Volunteers pausing to cheer soft. Couldn't leave you to the wolves? Alexander murmured into Patrick's collar, inhaling sawdust and sweat. Together, they toiled. Alexander sketching rebuild blueprints, phoenix motifs in glass, rainbow veins threading crosses, while Patrick counseled the shattered. Nightly vigils under stars where psalms met pop anthems. Tension simmered subsurface. Whispers of culprits. Fringe holdouts from the old guard. Tommy fingering a deacon's son with militia ties. Investigation loomed. Feds sniffing arson's federal scent. Climax crested full moon. Tent service swelling regional. Activists from Atlanta. Clergy from Birmingham. Media trucks idling like predators. Patrick's homily built slow. Parables of Lazarus. Lazar houses burned but rising. Midway, shouts erupted. Protesters breaching perimeter. Signs scrawled Sodom burned righteous. Bottles arcing fire toward the tent. Chaos, screams, stampede. Alexander shoving a kid clear as flames licked canvas. Patrick lunged for the mic. Voice booming calm. Down. Hands up, peace. But a figure broke through. Masked. Molotov raised and Alexander tackled. Rolling in dirt. Glass shattering on impact. Pain bloomed. Shard in his palm. Gash on forearm. But the bottle fizzled harmless. Extinguisher foam from a volunteer dousing threat. Feds swarmed. Mask ripped. The deacon's boy. Eyes wild with inherited hate. Cuffs clicked. Confession spilling in squad car. Daddy's sermons twisted to terror. Jealousy of the changed church. Alexander, bandaged hasty, met Patrick's gaze across the fray, fear to fierce love. Aftermath mended. Rebuild funded by viral outrage. Alexander's sketches auctioned for millions. Patrick's summit speech deferred but amplified. From ashes, alliance. Wedding wove through. Oaks in the park. Officiant a trans rabbi. Tommy's toast slurring sentimental. From foes to family. Here's to stunning 'em all. Years cascaded. Seminary thrived. Foundation Global Shoebox chapters in Lagos. Lahore. Alexander's art house film. Old shoes. New sermons. Oscar buzzed. Patrick's TED Talk. The laugh that launched love. Viewed billions. Grandkids came late. Adopted twins from the foundation. A boy and girl with Patrick's curls. Alexander's freckles. Romping the porch in tiny sneakers. Twilight deepened. Swings creaking under elder weight. Patrick's hand. Arthritis nodded. Clasped Alexander's. Worth the storm. Every drop. Kiss lingered. Mossy and eternal. The end came gentle. Patrick's heart, worn from giving, faltered one harvest eve. Sermon half scribbled on the desk. Alexander found him in the sunroom. Smile fading mid-sentence. I love you the last breath. Grief tsunamied. Funeral a convocation. Willow's tent reborn cathedral hosting thousands. Eulogies from presidents to parishioners. Alexander spoke last. He stunned us into grace. And in his light, we walk on, widowhood hollowed, but purpose-filled, Foundation helm passed to twins. Alexander curating exhibits. Patrick's robes beside old sneakers. Glass cases whispering witness. Willow pilgrimages continued. Alexander the Elder now. Stories spun to wide-eyed youth. They laughed once. But love, it silences storms. In Savannah's squares, under oaks eternal, he felt Patrick's hand, ghost or grace, in his own. Sneakers firm on cobble, heart full. Humaneness, not perfection, but persistence. Not victory, but the vulnerable stand. And in that, redemption's quiet roar.